Hey guys, it's Katie from Dashing Dish. Today I'm going to talk to you about some ways that I like to use oat flour, almond flour, and coconut flour, and why I use them in my baked goods over white flour or whole wheat flour even. A lot of times people say to me, well, what's the difference between all these flours? Really, it comes down to processed foods and processed ingredients. What I try and encourage at Dashing Dish is to get rid of all the processed foods. The reason being is not only is it less nutritious for our body overall, but also when you eat foods that have already been processed by man, so it's not something that comes straight from the earth, but it's been processed. So like things have been done to it, like it goes through chemicals and machines and bleaching processes and things like that. Then what happens is when we eat them, not only, like I said, is it not good for our bodies, and our bodies don't really recognize it as whole foods, but also we don't feel satisfied for as long. So have you ever had something like a candy bar, a donut, a cookie, and then, just shortly after you feel like you're looking for more sugar, you're looking for more, of that processed food that's really not good for you? Well, that's because your body isn't getting the memo that, okay, brain, you are satisfied. Tell your body and the rest of your body that you are satisfied because you had something that we can work with that's nutritious. So instead you're looking for more food, more sweets, more treats, and so it's just really a vicious cycle. So if you can get rid of just one thing, I always say get rid of the white flour and the white sugar, and even the whole wheat flour is a little bit better, but it's still heavily processed. So instead I use oat flour in a ton of my recipes, and you can probably see that by now if you've been around Dashing Dish for a while. And I'm going to show you what I use for oat flour. I just use old-fashioned oats. And really, we all know that old-fashioned oats are good for us because most of us, since we were kids, were told by our parents, oatmeal is good for you. So really, it's just old-fashioned oats, the Quaker oats, any kind of brand. You can get them in bulk, very inexpensive. You put them in a blender or a food processor, you make a flour out of it, and then you can just keep them in a container, and I'll show you what my oat flour looks like, just like this, and then you can add it to any baked good. You can swap it out in most recipes for flour exactly, and then it just gives you just a little bit more of a moist or a dense taste, but it tastes absolutely delicious. You won't even know it's in there, and your body will be properly fueled because of the fiber and the protein content of the whole grain. It's also heart healthy, good for your cholesterol, and so you'll feel satisfied and fueled. So for example, if I eat a muffin made with oat flour, I'll feel satisfied for a few hours versus a bakery muffin that I pick up that's loaded with sugar and white flour. I will probably have a blood sugar spike, an insulin spike, and then feel like it dropped. And that's because it affects our blood glucose levels because of the sugar. There's no flour or fiber, no protein, and then it leaves us feeling hungry shortly after. And so despite the amount of calories, it really doesn't matter versus, one muffin versus the next. What really matters is the flour that's used, because it's, again, like I said, it will give us an insulin response, it will affect our satiety level, and it will either give us fiber and protein or not. It will kind of give us that sugar rush, and then we're feeling like we either need more sugar or some caffeine to pick us back up. Some other options for flour if you can't have grains at all. So oat flour is gluten-free if you get gluten-free oats that are certified gluten-free. But if you're not really that sensitive to gluten, you can just buy any old oats. And for the most part, it is not contaminated with gluten at all. But if you like to use other flours, there's coconut flour and almond flour. So these are lower carb options. Oats are not high carb at all, and again, they're balanced with great fiber and protein. But if you want a really low carb option or you can't have any grains at all, coconut flour and almond flour are great options as well. You can get them at almost any grocery store, just in the flour or health or specialty section, and it's great because they really taste absolutely delicious and moist. They add a lot of moisture to cakes and muffins and things like that. Coconut flour is a little bit different in how it works in a recipe. So it absorbs a ton of moisture. So you can't just swap it out for a different kind of flour. You really have to follow the directions exactly on that recipe. I like using coconut flour because it's low in calories, very high in fiber and protein, and like I said, it makes things very moist. Almond flour, on the other hand, is pretty evenly swapped out for oat flour in most recipes, and it adds a lot of moisture because it's higher fat content. It is a little more expensive because almonds are expensive. You can possibly make your own. I've never tried though, so you do have to kind of think about the price there. I get it in bulk either on Amazon or at Costco, and that saves me some money. And then the great thing, like I said about almond flour, is it's low carb, grain-free, and gluten-free, and it makes really a lot of things taste very good. The greatest thing about all three of these flours, coconut, oat flour, almond flour, is I would give all three of them to my 1-year-old daughter. And that's how you know they're truly good for us. Because why? They all come straight from the earth. The coconut, the almond, and the oat. So it's not something that's been processed by man and made by man. It's something that our bodies can readily digest. They recognize it as real and whole food. It leaves us feeling satisfied, and it nourishes our body. So if you guys have any more questions about these flours, just email me or just put it in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer. I hope you have a great rest of your day.